Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. Today we have Mike Rhodes with us. Mike's approaching veteran status in the digital marketing world. Mike is the CEO and founder of WebSavvy and AgencySavvy and co-author of the world's best-selling book on AdWords, The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords. He's in his 16th year of building and running Google ad campaigns for businesses and brands all around the world, WebSavvy, as well as being in the trenches with his team and doing the work for clients. He teaches a few hundred competitor digital marketing agencies how to improve the technical, how to do Google ads and Facebook ads better side, and how to grow and scale their businesses at AgencySavvy. Mike, it's so great to have you on the show.
It is so good to be chatting to you again. It's been about a year and a half, I think, since we caught up in person. It's good to be here.
Yes. Yeah. We both spoke at James Schramko's event,
right.
Fast Business Live, and I was really impressed with your presentation about AI and Google ads and where things are heading and how to kind of future-proof your business on that kind of that side of things. It was just it was fantastic. So I'd love to delve more into those topics, but first I'd love to know, why are you giving some of your secret sauce away to competitors? I find that very generous and giving and vulnerable and
stupid,
open.
possibly. Yeah.
No. The more you are willing to reveal light in the world, I think that's amazing. So I'd love to know your kind of thought process around that and how you came to that.
There are multiple answers to that bouncing around in my head at the moment. Part of it was when I was first invited to co-author The Ultimate Guide with Perry Marshall. We did all the writing behind the scenes. We submitted it to the publisher. And then literally a week later, after submitting, Google made this huge change that affected a lot of how things were measured and what changed in the interface. So I quickly had to pull it all back, rewrite 3 chapters in a week, change a whole bunch of screenshots, and then resubmit it to the publisher. Big sigh, phew, we can all move on. And then, of course, there were 2 or 3 other big changes between then and when the book was published. And I realized that while we try very, very hard to make that book quite evergreen and quite strategic, there's clearly going to be bits of it that are going to be out of date as soon as the book hits the shelves. And that bugged me. And so I wanted to create a training that sort of went alongside the book that was going to be the world's most up-to-date Google Ads training. And that's when AgencySavvy was born 6 years ago now. And it's kind of grown from there. But part of that is because I've discovered on this journey, back from when I found out about Google Ads 16 years ago, I rushed back to my mastermind group then and just tried to teach everybody I could about how wonderful this thing was called Google Ads and how it was going to help small businesses. Anybody that would pay me the slightest bit of attention, I was trying to teach them. And for every 10 people that I would talk to, 9 said, "Mate, I don't care how it bloody works. Just do it for me," which is how the agency started. And because that ratio was about 9 to 1, 9 people wanted me to do it, and 1 person wanted me to teach, most of my energy went into the agency, certainly for the first 10 years. But I think I've discovered that I'm just a teacher at heart. I love to teach. I also think we all learn better if we teach. So you learn things at a deeper level if you know you're going to teach. And there are a lot of sharks in this industry. There's a lot of dodgy agencies out there. And yes, part of me, I think, was some very grandiose ambition that if there's a few more good agencies in the world, and if I can help cause that a little, then great. And I won't mention the names of some of the bad agencies. I'm sure your listeners can immediately think of a few out there. There are lots. And I guess that happens in every industry, from car dealerships to real estate agents. Like there's all kinds of industries where we know that not everybody in that industry is great. It's sadly the same in our industry. And I wanted to do my, I suppose, little bit to help try and fix that. Don't know. And maybe it's just selfish because I like teaching and that's my creative expression and gets me away from sitting in front of the screen and doing something that I love.
Yeah. Well, I don't think of it as selfish. I think of it as leveraging the knowledge, the experience, the expertise that you have and allowing that information and wisdom to be free. And information wants to be free. So
Totally.
you're just letting it out there. You're also leveraging your skills at teaching and inspiring others. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. So I also take a similar tack where I have some online courses. I don't focus a lot of my energy on promoting them. So most of my revenue comes from clients wanting me to do their SEO and come up with the keyword research and the audits and all that sort of stuff. But yet I also have some coaching clients, currently 3, who are quote unquote competitor agencies. And I've helped them grow significantly. I love doing it.
In an abundant world, so what if we both help a few more agencies, right? There are literally millions. I mean, I was going to say thousands and thousands, but literally millions of small businesses that need the advice, the help, the consulting, and the done for you services. So helping a few hundred agencies, I don't feel, eats into the available pool of potential clients out there for us. There are more and more small businesses that need help every day. So why not?
Yeah, why not? That's awesome. All right. So how did the book come to fruition? Because a book is a big project,
and it is a beast.
It's not to be taken lightly. I mean, that's a commitment. How did that come about?
I wish we'd had this conversation 6 years ago, because I did take it lightly. Well, no, I can't really take any credit for it at all. So Perry Marshall and his brother Brian Todd, they had already published the first 3 editions of the book. And I'd met them over the years. That Perry was who I first discovered Google Ads from back in 2004, a very infamous conference, very small conference here in Australia all those years ago. And then the first big conference that Perry ran, which was 2010 in Maui, it was only, I say big, it was only 70 people, but it was the first sort of super, super focused just on Google Ads conference that I had ever heard of or been to. And went out to Maui with a good mate of mine from Queensland, Will Swain. If you're listening to this, Will, good day. That event changed my life. And I met Perry and Brian and Jack Bourne, his then marketing manager, and just got on really, really well with them and started teaching their audience the Google Ads stuff. So I started running all of the training courses. And back then you could create a 6-module training course and sell it for a couple of grand. Those are the days, eh? And we would do, monthly Q&As and all kinds of stuff for his group. And then when it came time for them to write the 4th edition of the book, they said, well, look, you're in accounts all day, every day, more than we are. We can't think of anybody better to help us write the next version of the book. Do you want in? And I did think about it for a little bit, because I didn't realize just how much work is involved in that. So I think, 2/3 of the book was mine, all the technical side of stuff. And then Perry's got some wonderful stories and metaphors and, the fluffier parts of the book. And he's in charge of all of that. I'm not very flowery with my writing. I'm quite direct and technical and straightforward. And so that's how it started. And we've actually just heard from the publisher. We got the 6th edition. They're currently looking for a printer in New York, and there's a bit of a backlog, as you can imagine, right now in New York, but it's meant to be coming out in November, the 6th edition of that book. So keeps on going. Whether or not we'll get to 7, who knows? But as long as they keep asking us to write new editions, we will.
Yeah, and how big is the book now?
Oh, it's 330, 340 pages. This was really a complete rewrite from the 5th edition, which was 2017, to this 6th edition, which should be out November 2020. A complete rewrite of all of the technical chapters. So it was, quite a big undertaking that luckily got done before all of this craziness happened. I think we sort of put the manuscript to bed back in January of this year. And then same deal as before, we've had to update little bits and pieces where we can, but there comes a point where you can't mess with it anymore. It goes off to the editor, and all the proofing and all of that stuff has to happen. So same deal. We will keep creating those videos and keep the education being as fresh as we can within those constraints of the real world book.
Yeah. So now that Google has changed the brand from Google Ads to from Google AdWords to Google Ads,
Yep.
did you change the title of the book to the
Yes.
new brand? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've managed to keep it as the 6th edition and not sort of start all over again because the title has changed a little bit. Apparently in publishing, that was a big deal. So they're jealous, but yes, so it's updated and the new logo and the new title. And lots and lots of changes in there.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So listener, go and get that book when it comes out. And
yes, do not buy the 5th edition.
What would be like one of the best like nuggets from the new edition?
Gosh. Well, I guess the huge change over the past 3 years is Google's trying to automate more and more and more. So anytime you see anything in Google Ads that has the word smart in front of it, take it with a pinch of salt, maybe add the words not so in front. So not so smart display, not so smart shopping, not so smart bidding. Bits of it work really, really well most of the time. Other bits really don't work unless, it's one of those it depends things. But yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have to test these things, but that's probably been the biggest change. Google have gone all in on being, the AI machine learning led business. There's probably 5 AI businesses in the Western world, maybe 3 in China, and Google are right up there, some of the best AI on the planet. But we are constantly balancing how much and which bits of the AI to use against getting the best result possible for our clients. And for some accounts, that means using lots of the AI, and for some, that means using quite a small amount. So it's a constant balancing act. And this won't win me any friends at Google, but definitely not doing everything that Google tell you to do, and using all of the tools that they will push quite hard these days. The sales guys will push quite hard to use these smart tools, but they won't always improve the results in your account. So it's just being very, very careful with that. That's probably the biggest change over the last few years.
Well, also to bear in mind that Google's motivations and goals are not your own, right? They
Correct.
want to maximize your spend. They don't want to maximize your ROI. They just want you to get as good of an ROI as necessary in order to keep you spending money.
Yes. I think that's very succinctly and well put. Yeah. They have a share price that needs to keep going up and to the right. They have their own goals to optimize, and they probably aren't completely aligned with your own.
Yeah, that misalignment was made very apparent to me when I read the book Freakonomics, which is one of my favorite business books. And there's so many stories in there about misaligned incentives. And this was the reason why teachers in the Chicago public schools were cheating on behalf of their students on standardized tests, and why sumo wrestlers were throwing matches and actually losing on purpose. And so many of these different kinds of examples.
Yeah, the cobras in India. When the English went in, they decided to put a bounty on the head of the snakes to try and get rid of all the snakes. But of course, didn't take long for the local very, very poor people to realize, well, if we create these cobra farms and breed snakes and then go, hey, look, all these snakes we killed, give us lots of money. Then it became a huge problem when the British finally realized what was happening and stopped the bounty, at which point these guys went, I don't need the cobra farm anymore. Release the snakes. And of course, that ended up with way more snakes in the wild than there ever were before they got involved. Yeah, Stephen Dubner's stuff is fantastic. I love his podcast.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, so let's talk about some of the AI things that excite you. Like what's happening and what's coming that our listener needs to know about that's AI related.
So yeah, that AI is just it's a fascinating world. I've gone really deep into it the last 3 years, and one of the biggest things I've realized is that most small businesses do not need to. You don't need to go and hire a data scientist or have somebody on your team that knows Python inside out and knows how to wrangle Google's TensorFlow and all of this geeky stuff. You really just don't need to do it, because in order to be an AI business, I believe you need to be first an analytics business. To be an analytics business, you need to value data And I still think that the vast majority of businesses will pay lip service to, oh, yes, data-driven decision making. Yes, we make decisions based on data. But when it comes down to it, they kind of don't. They kind of trust their gut and still make decisions that way. They're not truly running the business on data. That is going to change, but where most businesses are right now, they'd be far better served focusing on automation, not AI. Now, part of that automation may mean taking some AI tools off the shelf, and Google and Facebook are full of AI. If you're using those two platforms, you are using AI day in, day out. But actually trying to use or build your own AI model to predict which of your customers are going to churn out and which prospects might become customers, unless you're dealing with very big numbers, and we're talking thousands and thousands of new customers every month, you just don't have the data to make those tools really interesting. So I've been fascinated by it. I would highly recommend that anyone listening, if you're at all interested in AI, learn enough about it to understand roughly how it works and how it may change your particular industry, because I firmly believe that it is going to change every single industry. It will change everything. And COVID has been a big accelerator of many, many things. So it's probably fair to assume that AI will accelerate the change in your industry, whichever industry you're in. But you don't have to become, a data scientist, a coding genius in order to benefit from that. There's some wonderful tools and courses, some great courses out there to learn, enough to be able to talk about it sensibly. Google have a fantastic one called Crash Course in Machine Learning. I can't remember how long it is, maybe 5-8 hours, something like that. I believe they make every employee at Google go through that particular course. And that's a really good introduction, just so that you understand the terminology, the basics, just learning the vocabulary. When you're learning anything new, learning the meanings of 20, 30, 40 words makes everything else suddenly come into focus and be much more understandable. That was a trick that Kiyosaki taught me years ago. Just learn the vocabulary. Start there. Whether you're learning Italian or real estate investing or whatever it is, learn the meanings of those 20, 30 words that keep coming up, and you'll feel so much smarter because you'll be able to take part in the conversations. I think
that's great. Oh, by the way, there's another course I'll throw into the mix to add to the Google one. It's from Coursera. It's called Machine Learning for Business Professionals.
Yeah, Coursera is fantastic. Andrew Ng is probably the smartest bloke on the planet that people haven't heard of. He was the guy that introduced machine learning at Google in 2011. He ran the machine learning at Baidu back in China. Now he's founded Coursera and a few other AI companies on the side. I don't know when the guy sleeps. He's incredible, but a wonderful teacher too. Really, really good. So yes, I love Coursera. And for me, it's understanding it enough to be able to translate between business and geek, to be able to see the opportunities that will be bubbling up in whichever industry you're in, whether that's just making your business better and more future-proof, or if you want to, disrupt, such a popular word right now, but disrupt your entire industry. Somebody's going to do it. Why not you? And at least be able to think through, well, how might this change things? What can AI do? What can't it do? What should I be thinking about? I think that's a fascinating rabbit hole to wander down.
Yeah. I heard this quote at Abundance 360 when I was there in January, that there are going to be two kinds of businesses by the end of the decade: businesses that are using AI at their core, and then there are businesses that will be out of business. And I'd love to hear what your take is on that. Is that true? I don't remember who the person was, a famous person who said that, so I can't attribute it correctly, but I'd love to hear your take on that.
I think Peter Diamandis kind of does live even more in the future than we do. He seems to exist sort of 10, 20 years into the future. And look, I think asteroid mining's freaking cool, but I have no idea how to make any of my clients any money from things that are that far away. So I tend to focus on, my timeline is more sort of 6 to 24 months. That's what I love, running out 3 or 4 hills into the distance, scouting that near future, and then bringing some ideas and thoughts back to clients and AgencySavvy members around that. So that 10-year horizon, I don't know. I'm probably not qualified enough to think that. It sounds a bit marketing and hypey, doesn't it, to say AI at your core or you're gone. But I do think the gap between the haves and have-nots will no doubt increase, as it has done so many other places in society. And while you maybe don't have to have it at the core of your business, you certainly need to understand how to use it, how to benefit from it, how it can help in areas of your business. And there'll be other areas where it doesn't make sense. But yes, I think you're going to have a fundamental understanding of what it is, what it's capable of, and be able to talk intelligently to the geeks about some of the things that maybe you want to test inside the business. And yeah, most businesses don't have that test and learn, fail fast kind of a mindset, right? A lot of business have that, well, it's the way we've always done things. We've been going 30 years. Why would we change that now? Those businesses are probably going to be in trouble. That's not the way we do it around here. It probably doesn't work. It probably doesn't work so much in the 2020s.
Well, there's a prediction from Ray Kurzweil that we'll reach human level artificial intelligence by 2029, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, the singularity comes when we're so far beyond that all known models for predictions fall apart, and you just like, it's kind of like the quantum singularity, a black hole. The laws of regular physics no longer work, and you can't predict that. So in an evolutionary singularity, similarly, you can't see beyond that event horizon, so to speak. So around 2050 to 2055, we'll be so far beyond human level intelligence for the AIs, we will be like ants if we don't augment ourselves. And I don't want to get down some philosophical rabbit hole of what that means. Are we still human if we keep augmenting ourselves so that we keep up with the AIs? So that's a tough one. But let's talk about some of the more near-term implications. Let's say 3-4 years down the line. What sort of tools would Joe Bloggs be using in his small business that may not even be at all a technical business? Maybe he's a plumber, or maybe he's he puts siding on houses or roofs or something on houses.
Oh gosh, there's so many directions we could go in there, aren't there? So I think where most of the tools exist currently has been sales and marketing, because that's where businesses do have data, because everybody has Google Analytics installed on their website. Nobody ever logs in. That's the dirty secret about Google Analytics, but everybody's got it. So there's tons of data in there. And Google, of course, are building machine learning into those very tools. Inside Google Analytics, there's two newish metrics that are really cool. They've got this thing called conversion probability. It tells you how likely somebody is going to be to buy from you in the next 30 days. Doesn't always work, but when it does, it's a fantastic audience to use, in your Google ads as a remarketing audience, for instance. There's one called session quality, which again, same sort of thing, but instead of predicting how likely they are to buy, it's kind of looking at everything that they've done and how long they've spent on certain pages and which products they've looked at and all of these different features to try and predict which were the good ones, which weren't the so good ones. So again, great tool to use for remarketing. So there's lots of sales and marketing, and there's lots of great AI tools out there for helping you with, like you said before, keyword research and content marketing. Writing has obviously changed quite a lot in the past few weeks. If you aren't as geeky as the two of us, you may not have read about GPT-3, but that is a game changer. It has been massively overhyped. Even the boss of OpenAI, who came out with this model, has said, look, this thing has been hyped to the moon and back. And yet it does appear to be a huge step forward. So what is GPT-3? It is a model that is simply trying to predict the next word. So if we said a sentence like, the cat is drinking blank, then most people listening to this are thinking probably milk, maybe water. You're probably not thinking beer or a martini or kombucha, because just based on our experience of the world and everything that we've ever read and spoken and seen, the cat is probably drinking milk or water. And so this tool has basically ingested every word that humans have ever written, ever put on the internet, 500 billion words. It's read all of that, and it's trying to then predict the next word. So you give it a prompt to kick it off, and you say, write me a Dr. Seuss poem about Elon Musk, and it goes and writes a Dr. Seuss poem about Elon Musk. And you've primed it. You've given it a couple of examples of Dr. Seuss poems before that, just to remind it what that sort of thing is like. But this tool is doing things that nobody really expected. It's writing code, it's writing poetry, it's writing essays. People are giving it examples. It's doing maths. So this was one that blew my head. If you give this thing a couple of prompts, and then you say something like, what is 457 plus 684? Now, it may never have read that particular sentence anywhere in those 500 billion words that it's ever read, but it's read lots of similar sentences. What is 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 is 4. And it's basically learned how to do maths by doing lots of reading, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But there've been newspaper articles written by this thing, and can you tell the difference between this article and this article? And it's just the latest version of something that's been going on for a while. People have been writing articles about baseball games, and financial annual reports have been written by AI for quite a while. And anytime you can give a machine lots of structured data and lots of examples, and let's face it, the typical annual report's pretty dry, pretty boring, and probably doesn't change much year to year. And if you pick 100 off the shelf and change the cover, you probably couldn't tell that this was a different business. They're all kind of written the same way. That's perfect for AI. But this new thing is seemingly much more creative. Now, of course, it doesn't understand anything that it's saying. It doesn't understand who Elon Musk is, or who Dr. Seuss was, or why that sounds a particular way. It's just predicting the next word, and then the next word, and the next word, and the next word. But it's doing a remarkable job of doing that, which probably has many people that write for a living pretty worried, I would imagine.
Yeah, because it won't be long before that is 1,000 times better than it is now.
This is the thing, right? All the charts are still going up and to the right. So when they released GPT-2 last year, they didn't release the full model because they were too worried about it. They were scared it was going to get used to create fake news, because basically the quality of the writing it was putting out was too good. And so they sort of eked out variations of it, or versions of it over time. This new one that's just been brought out a few weeks ago is, depending on how you measure AI tools, it's essentially 100 times the size. So roughly 100 times more powerful than last year's model. But the charts are still going up and to the right. It's still, there's still room for it to improve. So yes, we don't have machines that can do common sense yet, or that understand the things they're saying, but they are kind of almost at that Turing test level of, can you tell that this was written by a machine or by a real person? And it's the breadth of this thing. It's not the fact that it can just do this one thing, but you could use it in so many different areas. I was doing a Zoom call with, I've been doing a few recently because it's just fun, with primary schools. I started doing it. A guy contacted me and said, would you teach our grade 5s about AI? I saw one of your talks. They're doing this thing in STEM. I reckon they'd love it. And it's just mushroomed from there. I think I've done about half a dozen so far, and I've got a few more booked in for term 4, which comes up pretty soon in Australia. And the kids ask the best questions. It has been so much fun doing this. But I was saying to them, like, I can picture when you go to secondary school. I don't know the American equivalents of middle school and freshman and all that stuff. I guess it's high school. Like when you go into high school and you're writing essays for English, it's not will this machine be good enough to write the essay for me? But how will you be good enough to give it the right prompts so that it spits out something that's decent enough? Dan Sullivan would call it the 80% swipe. Don't think of it as a tool that's going to replace writers, but how it can augment writers and give you, I want to write an article on this thing, and this thing will spit out 15 totally different drafts that you could then pick and choose from and splice together, or say, I really like, let's mix that one with a bit of that and a bit of that. And now maybe a human editor comes along and writes something amazing and beautiful. But a lot of that grunt work was done by the machine. So I think there'll be a lot of scope to use it in those sorts of ways, to use it as an idea generator, or a first draft, or something just to get you away from that blank white page, which for most of us, I think is a lot more scary. I think most of us are good at editing something. Once we see it, we go, I can tell you what's wrong with this. But actually starting with a blank page, much harder usually.
Right. So we all might be blogging, but using our AI to do it.
Yeah.
Let's take a very practical, immediate example that I think all of our listeners could benefit from. They could use this new tool, or like Google has this T5 text-to-text transfer transformer that's freely available. You could use that and a simple Python script to generate meta descriptions that are all unique without having to write them yourself. And they're not just excerpts from all your blog posts and articles and web pages on your site. It can generate all of it unique content. Yeah. It's just amazing. And
some of them might need a little bit of an edit or a bit of a polish, but again, like 80-90% of the work is done for you. Yeah, that's a perfect example. I don't think in terms of that because I'm not in the SEO world, but yeah, writing replies to emails. I mean, we already have, I've been using Google Docs a lot recently. I've completely done away with Word and Excel as of probably a year ago. My use of it was declining. Now I'm fully into G Suite and Google Docs, Google Sheets. And of course, Google Docs will predict, the end of the sentence for you, 2 or 3 words. What this GPT-3 is, you can see, what did you say, 10 years in the future? You can see where you basically go, reply, vroomf. And the whole thing will be pre-written for you, not just the next 2 or 3 words. And then it'll say, are you good with that, or do you need to edit it a bit? And of course, it's looking at all of those edits that you make, and it's learning from you over time. Same as Gmail is as well. There's 3 options at the bottom of Gmail. I think even LinkedIn's starting to do that now as well. Gives you those options, and depending on the type of words that you use, it's changing those options. So yeah, we'll all be using AI, but it's that old line of it appears like magic until we're all using it, and then it's just like, oh yeah, try to tell these kids how amazing it is, all the stuff that they have to play with these days, and they're like, yeah, whatever, old man. They take it for granted that you can call somebody on the other side of the world in perfect video with no audio lag. It's just, or that you carry a supercomputer around in your pocket. That's just duh. Of course you do. So all of this AI, some of the stuff that seems fantastical and amazing to us of what's coming will be just, well, yeah, of course it does like that, Dad. Like, how else would I do my homework? That's just, it'll just be another tool to master.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all boomers to the younger generation.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's I think you're referring to a quote from Arthur C. Clarke: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's going to be like Star Trek episodes very, very soon. And we need to prepare for that. We can't just be caught unaware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And like right now, if you aren't using, let's say that your website supports customer service chat, right? And you offer products or services across geographies, across languages. You could be using Unbabble, which is at least 90% accurate with real-time machine translation, or language translations by machines, and that 10% that isn't quite on the mark gets flagged, and then within seconds, their human army of people that work for Unbabel will correct that. And so it's near real time, and it's 100% roughly accurate with the translations. You don't have to have anybody on your team who speaks those languages. It's pretty incredible.
It is crazy, isn't it? And how that augments us, those superpowers that they potentially give us. And that for me is the story behind this AI. It's not that, those businesses go out of businesses. The ones that aren't prepared, yes, many will go out of business, but I don't think it's this, us versus the machine. Machine turns us all into paper clips. It's not that, I don't think that's the story. I think it's us and the machine. It's smart people working with smart machines. That's the exciting, hopeful future. What will we be able to do, and how do we get rid of all of that boring, mundane, repetitive stuff? How do we get the machines doing that? Like the first coming up with the first draft of 5 different articles on the same topic, because we need to show like all these different ways of thinking about it. Having the machine do that, and then putting the human layer over the top, doing the editing and the curating and the synthesis between different things. A random tangent here. I've been using BigQuery and sucking a lot of Google Ads data out into BigQuery so that we can start to do some fun stuff there. But Google have this tool, Data Studio. I'm guessing many of your listeners have heard of it and probably use it for client reporting and so on. It's such a good tool, and it's getting better at a rate of knots. So we're using a tool like Data Studio to enable us to better visualize and pull in data from a range of different sources so that you can see all of that in one place together. I can give some examples of that, but it's quite geeky on the Google Ads side. I'm just trying to think of a one that makes sense to everybody, even if they don't do Google Ads. In Google Ads, you have the structure is very, very hierarchical. So you have campaigns, and campaigns hold ad groups, and ad groups hold keywords. And then behind each of those keywords live hundreds and hundreds of search terms, what somebody has actually typed into Google. Now, in the Google interface, if you want to dig into a particular ad group and then a particular keyword and see the search terms that live behind that, that's all well and good-ish. They're hiding more and more of that data, but anyway, we won't go there. But then if you want to look at the next ad group across, you've got to come sort of all the way back up out of that hierarchy into the next ad group or into the next campaign, and then all the way back down, and then the next one all the way back up and across. And all. Using a tool like Data Studio, everything can be on the screen at the same time, and you can instantly filter everything on the screen. And so you just go, this ad group, these search terms. Oh, that's interesting. Next one, changes. Next one, changes. Next one, next. And it's just so much easier to get context and see all of these different bits and pieces of data, because I think that's what we as humans are brilliant at, is that synthesis of disparate things, pulling that together and making sense of that, and often making up stories about that, but making sense of that and seeing the patterns in that. Whereas a lot of the AI and a lot of the tools right now are very, very narrow, fantastically good at just doing one little thing, but not then good at thinking, oh, well, if that happens over there, what could happen over here? So I think humans will be needed for quite a while yet, coming at it from a higher level and more strategic uses of that data. But that still requires you obviously to have all your data nice and tidy and in the right place.
Yeah. Would you say that everybody listening should be at least playing with Google Data Studio?
I think Data Studio is a wonderful tool. I'm not the world's expert on Google Analytics by a long shot, but I am seeing a lot of people, like we said before, everybody's got it, nobody ever logs in, but then using Data Studio over the top of a tool like Google Analytics, which is full of all this geeky data, to then you do the thinking once and go, okay, what are the 6 KPIs that I need to look at on a regular basis? how do I present that in a way where I can get the insight much, much faster and have that presented on a thoughtful, well-designed dashboard that, okay, where are we at compared to the target? And there's all kinds of ways to make a dashboard good. Read Avinash Kaushik, get on his email list, go check out his blog, Occam's Razor. He is one of the best minds around that sort of stuff, I think, on the planet. But yes, I think if you're a business and you're not using dashboards, I know that the data purists would say, well, you can do all of that with code and you can have alerts sent to you. But I think we're very, very visual as a rule, as humans. So if you're trying to run a business and you're not, at whatever level you're at, and not using dashboards to help you with your decision making, then I would start there. Yeah. But it has to be a thoughtful, well-designed dashboard that's going to help you make actionable insights. It's not just a data puke. There's not much point using it for that. Did that? I'm not sure if I wandered off on too much of a tangent there, but kind of answered your question.
Great. Okay, so are there templates for good dashboards? Like, is there a whole library that folks could browse to just import or load into Google Data Studio?
Yeah, I think if you do a search for something like Data Studio Gallery, you will find lots and lots. They're making it very easy with one click at the top of Google Analytics to instantly create a Data Studio dashboard with your data instantly sucked in to that tool, so you don't have to do all of the fiddly geeky stuff. They're really improving it at a rate of knots. The Data Studio team is absolutely fantastic at Google, but it's a great place to start, because that gets you into that thing that we were talking about before of valuing data and starting at least to become an analytical company. If you start that now, then you're going to be far, far better prepared a year or two from now to, one, make basically instant use of all of the AI and machine learning that Google is going to put into all of those tools. But it's also going to set you up really, really well, because once you start doing that, you'll start thinking, well, how do we do the same thing for this area of the business? How can we pull in all of this data from this area? And that could be something completely different. That could be, that manufacturing company that you mentioned before, putting sensors on all of the machines in the factory and being able to visualize which machines are probably about to fail before they actually fail, so that they can swap that part out and avoid having disruptions on the line. We're heading towards this trillion sensor, maybe we're there already. I'm not up to date with the numbers, but a trillion sensor economy. There are sensors everywhere spewing out data all of the time. How do we then use that data to inform us and make better decisions? And that's all kinds of business can benefit from that. Agriculture, health, education, every business is going to be affected by that.
Right, and that reminds me of the spatial web and how things are going to change quite drastically there. I had Gabriel Rene on this podcast talking about this. It's pretty fascinating. It's the how Web 2.0 was a thing back in the day, and that was a big paradigm shift. Like, the spatial web is going to transform everything, and those trillion sensors and all that is just one piece of the full equation. So I'll encourage our listener to, and you as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go take a listen.
That episode, Mike. So when you said turn us all into paper clips earlier, I made a note of that. I'm like, I'm going to ask if Mike's aware of this particular game that might be why you said that. There's a game that was written up in Wired magazine. I'll include the link in the show notes. It's basically a game where it assumes that molecular nanotechnology exists, which it will, meaning that you'll have self-replicating nano-sized machines, so at the nanometer level, so the size of molecules, small molecules, will be able to self-replicate. They'll make more of themselves. And when we have that, everything changes. I mean, AI is a big deal, but molecular nanotechnology is even bigger. So the replicator in Star Trek and all that becomes very, not just possible, but inevitable. And so this game is this kind of like just emulator of what paperclip factories would be using as raw material, which would be pretty much anything in the environment, because when molecular nanotechnology comes, it can just break down the nearby molecules into its constituent parts, into the atoms, and then rebuild it into paper clips. And so eventually the game always ends with the entire galaxy getting consumed by these machines that and the factories that spew out paper clips, and it goes out of control. And it's the Grey Goo problem, if you're familiar with nanotech. So is that why you said turning us all into paper clips?
I didn't know that it was a game in Wired. I thought it was a Nick Bostrom thing. But yeah, essentially, if we give the machine the wrong goal, and the problem is going to be, or part of the problem is going to be, that we may not be smart enough to know what to ask the machine to do. I mean, as humans, we really ain't that smart a lot of the time. We can't agree. I mean, geez, look at the state of the world right now. We can't agree on what good is. We 7.5 billion people, 7.5 billion sets of values. What is intelligence? You know, these kids were asking about artificial intelligence. What is intelligence? You know, we don't have an answer for that. Squirrels have a different type of intelligence. They can bury 1,000 nuts and remember where they all are. We can't do that. But does that mean a squirrel's more or less intelligent than we are? It's not on a one continuum. It's not this one thing. There's many, many different types of intelligence. Our job is going to be asking the machines to optimize for the right thing, putting some safeguards around that. But more and more, I think of it as coming up with the right questions. So imagine that every answer is instantly available. Certainly anything that can fit into a spreadsheet and that is based on data. If all of the answers can be known, then the game becomes asking the right question. And that is definitely something that I'm more and more fascinated by. The older I get, I realize that questions are the answer, and having the right question is everything.
Yeah. If you want a better life, ask better questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was chatting with Brian Todd, my co-author, the other day, and he was saying how sometimes before going into a team meeting, so he's the president of Perry Marshall and Associates, before going into a team meeting, he might spend an hour crafting the right 2 questions to go in and pose to the team, because he understands the power of the right question to not only get everybody thinking and get everybody aligned and rowing in the same direction, but also to get amazing new wisdom and knowledge out of these amazing resources we have at our businesses called people. They have the answer, but asking the right question is what's required to elicit the stuff that we really want. I find that a fascinating topic that I'm not particularly good at.
Well, you'd enjoy the book Change Your Questions, Change Your Life.
Okay. I don't know that one.
Yeah. It's kind of a self-help book, but I think you'd enjoy it. So
consider it bought.
You mentioned Nick Bostrom, and thinking, well, maybe that's a Nick Bostrom kind of game. But before you tell me who Nick Bostrom is and our listeners, I'll tell you who the game designer was of that paperclip game. It was Frank Lantz.
Okay.
So tell me about Nick Bostrom and why our listener needs to know who he is and why.
I don't know a ton about him. What I do know, I'll simplify as what we have right now is what's commonly referred to artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI, which means a machine that can do one small thing but do it very well. And more, these machines can do things at a human level or better, because they don't get tired and they all learn from each other, et cetera, et cetera. Self-driving cars. Objectively, cars are probably better drivers than most humans at this point, but we are very quick to criticize when an algorithm gets something wrong, but we're very, very forgiving when a human gets something wrong. But there are probably, it's fair to say at this point, less accidents. Now it's just a regulation problem. And when will we all become comfortable with machines driving? That was a random tangent. So ANI, the next bit, which, and you've mentioned 2050, 2055, I think the best AI minds on the planet can't really agree on this. Certainly Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, and the Singularity University guys have sort of one set of beliefs. You've got guys like Demis Habibius, I think is his name, at DeepMind in London, who is probably at the head of the pack here, trying to solve what is intelligence and trying to create artificial general intelligence in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Some people think
DeepMind it was a company acquired by Google, what?
Yeah.
8 years ago,
2014. Yeah. So that's the one that our listener may be familiar with, that played Go and beat the world champion at Go. That was the DeepMind technology, and that's now a sister company of Google over at Alphabet. That's the technology that drives that smart bidding and many of the other tools inside of Google Ads. And they're doing amazing stuff in healthcare and all sorts of fun stuff. Some of it's a PR exercise, sure, but they are doing some incredible stuff with AI. So we're heading towards this potentially artificial general intelligence. Can we get a machine that can do what we as humans can do? I think what Nick Bostrom was talking about is the level above that. So once we have a computer that's as good as a human brain, how long between then until we have a computer that is as good as all the brains combined on the planet? And how long from then before, like you said before, we just can't see past that event horizon, because we are an ant at that point, trying to understand what all of these humans are doing, wandering around, driving cars, and how are cars made. And we just cannot begin to fathom that world. And that's artificial superintelligence, where the whole thing just kind of runs away. And if we don't have those safeguards, and is it possible to put those safeguards? And I have not gone into that world because it seems so far away that anything I learn about that will just scare the crap out of me. And I won't be able to do anything about it anyway. So worry about the things you can control and come back to 6 months to a year away.
Yeah. That's, I think, the serenity prayer, right? God help me to change the things I can, to not change the things I can't, and the wisdom to know to the difference.
The wisdom to know the
something
difference.
Along that's right. I mangled that one, but that's roughly the serenity prayer. And so Nick Bostrom is kind of at the cutting edge of what are the ethical implications, and how do we safeguard humanity from superintelligence, which is coming faster than we could possibly think or imagine. So Ray Kurzweil, I gave this stat earlier, 2029 is when he predicts artificial general intelligence, AGI, will hit. And then I think it's 2035 where it's 1,000 times smarter than humans. And yeah, the singularity 2055-ish for...
That is not very far away, right? I mean, the iPhone arrived 13 years ago, and many of us can still remember Steve Jobs on stage with his big finger. That was 13 years ago. 2029, 8 years away. That's going to be here before we know it. You've got a 1-year-old. When your kid is 9, which is the age of my elder daughter, and I can tell you that's a blink and you miss it kind of 8 years. That's 2029. It is quite incredible. And then GPT-3 comes out, and you go, oh, that was a step change of understanding what these things are kind of capable of. And sure, like many of the examples, if you go searching for GPT-3 examples, many of the things you're going to find have been cherry picked, and you don't know if somebody has fed that line into the machine 100 times and, oh, there's one good one finally, right? I'll put that in my article in the New York Times and say, like, look at how amazing the machine was. But it's only going to keep getting better. That's the incredibly scary and in some ways good, but kind of scary.
Yeah, and exponentially better, right? So it's going to improve at exponential rates.
And this kind of riffs off what one of the kids was asking on this call a few days ago. I said, I don't think we need to worry about how smart the computers get. What I'm far more concerned about is how dumb humans are. And it only requires a very, very small number of humans to use these incredible tools in a malicious way. And human beings are idiots. We've always used tools in malicious ways. I mean, take fire, right? It can toast your marshmallows, it can burn your house down. It depends how you use the tool. These tools are getting incredibly, incredibly powerful. There's a book I read years ago, which I absolutely loved, called Future Crimes. This will scare the bejesus out of you, but it was by a guy who had the best job title in the world. He was the futurist for the FBI. So it was his job to look at all of the stuff that the FBI knew about and then extrapolate that into the future. Now, that book was written 7 years ago, and a lot of the stuff in there was what's coming in 5 to 10 years. And we're bang in the middle of that time frame now. And so using AI to write those spammy emails, which right now are written because they know that that same email is going to go out to 10 million people, but there's going to be an idiot somewhere that's going to press that link and write back to the Nigerian prince and, and send the money to the bank account. But what he was talking about in there is, what if that email has been written just for you? What if it has scraped your social profiles and knows all of these things about you and writes an email as if it's from that long lost friend of yours or from someone that you're expecting to hear from, because it knows that you usually communicate quite a bit, but this person's on holiday at the moment. And so it's going to write this letter saying, hey, I'm stuck in Brazil and I've been thrown in jail for the wrong thing and I need your money really, really quickly. And your friend is in Brazil. And I'm wandering off on a weird tangent now, but like, these machines could be incredibly powerful. The machines themselves are not going to be evil, but how human beings potentially use them can be frightening. By the way, don't read that book just before you go to bed. It will scare the crap out of you.
Great. Well, we'll put it in the show notes, and I think we should probably put that warning right next to the link to the book title. Okay, so let's switch to a really fast lightning round for these last few minutes. So if you're ready, let's
and some buzzers. Okay.
All right. So what's your favorite quote by Dan Sullivan?
Oh my goodness. Quote. I can't think of a quote, but I love the concept of unique ability and the 80-20 approach. Absolutely love the 80-20 approach.
Yeah. Well, my favorite quote by him is, perfection has no place in times of peril.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like
so
that.
We're in interesting times right now. So you got to remember that quote so that you don't get stuck in this perfection mode. Instead, you just fail fast and you get stuff out the door.
Progress, not perfection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I can't remember.
I
was going to say just, I've never met Dan, but I consider him a mentor of 18 years. I have listened to his stuff religiously for 18 years. He is probably the best thinker about thinking that I know of. And I think my brain works in a fairly similar way to his. We've got similar Colby scores and so on. So I just feel like all these thinking tools he creates were custom made for me and they make my life easier and better. So I'm a massive fan of Strategic Coach, Shannon Waller, Dan Sullivan, and all the crew over there.
Yep. I'm in Strategic Coach. I've been in for a year now. I love it. Yeah, it's great. And so you mentioned Colby, so that's Kolbe, which is a great assessment, and I've taken it. I'm curious what your Colby score is.
It's a while since I did it. So which way round are the first two? I think it's fact find first, and then follow through. So I think I'm a 7, 8, then something really low, like a, what's the next one? Oh no, quick start.
Quick start.
That's the high one, right? So it's.
Yeah, you can't convince me you're a low quick start.
No. That's a 9. So it's something like a 7, 6 or 6, 7, 9, 3.
Okay, I'm a 3.393.
Wow.
Yeah, so everything is low except
all
for
new ideas. Let's go.
Oh my goodness, I am just prolific. It's insane. It's a blessing and a curse. Okay, so next one is, what's your favorite AI-based tool for our listener to play with? Like whether it's keyword research or content marketing related, is it Market Muse or whatever? Like what's something that they should check out?
It's verging into very geeky territory, but I have been playing a little bit recently with AutoML. It's a Google model that if you can put some data into a CSV and have a bunch of columns there, and then one column is, here's the thing I would like to predict. Is this placement from the Google Display Network junk or not junk? So if you can organize some data, it is ridiculously simple. It took me 20 minutes on the weekend to follow along a video and load this thing up, load that into AutoML, and build your own machine learning model. Now, maybe it only took 20 minutes because I'd done all of that backstory and research, but I don't think so. I think you could use the tool really, really quickly. And I am just blown away now at how easy it is. You don't have to think about neural networks and what type of model it's going to build, and it'll just figure out the best model to build for you, and then it'll start making these predictions on your data for you. So if you've got data and there's something that you would love to predict, this is the opposite of a quick fire round now, but if there is some data that you would love to predict, then AutoML is my new favorite uber geeky tool to play with.
Okay, so like if I have a huge list of books I want to read, like crazy huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's hundreds and hundreds in that list. So I could paste that into a spreadsheet. It's an Evernote right now. I could paste it into a spreadsheet,
Okay.
like a Google Sheet, and then I could use an AutoML
So
field.
what's the historical data that you're going to feed in, though? So first you need your training data, your historical data. So that'd be a list of all the books that you have read and loved them or hated them. Or let's say a 1 to 10 scale, right? Let's not make it binary here. Let's go from a scale of 1 to 10. I loved these. I didn't like these. But then what features would you be loading into the machine? At this point, you've only really got the title and the author and maybe what the score is on Goodreads or something. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if you could feed in the entire text of the book, or at least maybe the table of contents or something a little bit easier, and say, this stuff I loved, this stuff I hated, this stuff I didn't even finish. I think in order to make a prediction about which books you're going to love, I think that would be a little harder, because you've got to think about the features of the data that you're feeding in. I mean, I've just done something similar and I cheated. I went authors that are similar to Lee Child, and then hit the interwebs, and there are entire websites that have that kind of author map. And so I bought 20 different authors. I bought tons of fiction books because I don't read enough fiction. Just one from each of these authors. And there's been a couple I hated so far and a couple I loved. And now I'm going to go deep into those new authors. I don't know if that
is going to help solve your problem. I've got a couple of fiction authors for you. Like, I'm not an AutoML, but I can tell you that I think you're going to love Neil Stephenson. So if you're familiar with the book Snow Crash or the book Diamond Age, incredible. You will love them. And they're just so bingeable. And cool. Let's see, one other author. Oh,
William Gibson, I got back into recently. Agency, that was good. Okay.
And the Steven Spielberg movie. What was the name of that one? That they're in the Oasis in this virtual world.
The Ready Player One?
Ready Player One, thank you.
Yeah, great book. I love that one.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the film yet, actually, but I loved the book.
Well, I'll tell you, you will be disappointed by the film then.
Okay.
Yeah. For those who have not read the book, you'll enjoy the movie. It's a good movie. It's fun. But if you've read the book...
I think being born in the 70s was a big part of the enjoyment of that book. All of the 80s references and the Pac-Man and all of that stuff.
I love it. Yeah. But I'll tell you, if you've watched the movie and you did enjoy it, read the book or listen to the book. Oh my goodness, amazing. Okay, so another quick question. So are you familiar with the Talk to Books app that Ray Kurzweil and his team had built over at Google? So Ray Kurzweil, he got his company acquired by Google, and then he became an executive at Google and had a whole team to do whatever he wanted that was like AI and kind of futurism related. So one of the things that his team built was Talk to Books, and it reads the entire library of all books, and then you can ask it questions.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, that was a while ago that came out, right? I haven't played
Yeah,
with
a
it.
while ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely needs some work,
Okay.
but I imagine that they're going to do some sort of update or something, and then it's going to be amazing, right? So what we were talking about earlier. So, do you have a particular favorite app kind of like that? Maybe it's some sort of IBM Watson
Oh.
thing or something that just will blow people's minds when they go and check it out.
Descript. Descript has
Okay.
been my app that I've just been absolutely geeking out on the last 2-3 months. So I would imagine some people are familiar with Otter. So
Yep.
creating a transcription of audio for free, 95% accurate, slightly worse quality than rev.com maybe, but completely free. So Descript will not only do that part for you, but if you load up a video, and by the way, it will also automatically recognize when you have a new Zoom link added to the clipboard on your computer or a Loom link, and it'll say, hey, I just noticed you got a new video. Would you like me to import that? Yes, thank you. So sucks in the video, does the full transcription, but then it allows you to edit the video by editing words. So normally when you edit video, you've got the waveform down the bottom and you're scrubbing backwards and forwards, trying to find the bit between those two words because you need to chop that little piece out or something. If you can edit a Word document, I think everybody listening can, then you can literally highlight a paragraph, press delete, and that bit is gone from not just the audio, but from the video, and it joins the two bits together. So we recently reached out to some of our members and said, would you say some nice things about us and give us a video testimonial? So then my marketing manager was able to load these 15, 20 videos into Descript, see the transcription written. So instead of having to scrub through these videos and write down time codes, she was able to visually see, and you've got the video next to you, the transcription, and then the waveform across the bottom, just in case you really need that. Read through that, watch the video, read through, oh, that line there where Darren said that bit and where Laura said that bit, and then just literally highlight that bit of text, cut and paste into a new project, 15 little chunks of video. And that was the rough cut that took literally 5-10 minutes to create. And then
Awesome.
we did send that on to a proper video editor, just to make the transitions a little bit nicer. I think you can do some funky transitions in Descript, but as a transcription tool, as a rough video editing tool, absolutely mind-blowing. Great use of AI for $10 a month.
That was so cool. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, Otter AI is not free anymore. It is $10 a month. I mean, you can do
okay.
a little with it. You can't import any files for free anymore. You have to you have to pay for.
Yeah, I've stopped using it now that I use Descript. So
well, I'm going to switch to Descript, I think.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm going to share something with you that I think it may frustrate you to know it now rather than like 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago when you were just starting the testimonial project. But always coach the client to explain their objections that they had before they signed up with you.
Right.
So critical, because the key tool that where the testimonial fits in is to obliterate the objections, maybe even preempt the objections that the prospect hasn't even articulated yet. So if a prospect is very concerned about the price, and that's always the case with my client or with my prospects, to lead the testimonial with, okay, so yeah, we're a Fortune 500 company and we have big budgets and so forth, and still we were very concerned about the price because he was twice as much as all the other competition that we looked at. And yet I'm so glad we went with Stephan because, oh my goodness, the ROI was like infinitely higher than it would have been with these other guys. And we're just so happy and blah, blah, blah. So whenever possible, get
great tip.
Get the client to talk about their objections.
Yeah, I have a list of 6 questions that we sent to everybody, which I stole from a wonderful guy called Sean D'Souza, who's in Auckland. He had a book many, many years ago called The Brain Audit. That book would have to be 15, maybe 20 years old. And it's absolutely fabulous. I just love the way he thinks about the brain. He's also a brilliant cartoonist. And so the book and his website is filled with these wonderful drawings that he does that he randomly sends to me on Messenger. It's quite bizarre. I've just got this thing pop up of this like 6 cartoons that he drew the other day. It's really cool. Yeah, very talented guy. Frustratingly so.
So the 6 questions, what are they?
Oh goodness, I couldn't rattle them off the top of my head. I can send them though, and you can pop them in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll do that. Is it in one of his blog posts or books or something?
I've got them saved. Okay. On my computer.
Right. Well, we'll include it in the
I won't
show
try
notes.
and find them now, but yeah, I'll send them over to you straight after this.
Okay. All right. So last lightning round question. Is it still important to have a third-party ad management platform, or should you just use Google?
If you mean for bidding, like a Kenshu, Marin, that sort of thing.
Correct.
I don't think so. No, because all those machines are doing is taking what little data is available through the API and building their own models around that to then try and beat the Google model. Now, if you are insistent on not using the Google tech at all, and I don't think there are many people left in this camp at this point in 2020, and still doing things manually or trying to build your own set of basic rules, if this, then that, then maybe those machines that do use a bit of ML, maybe they're just really doing a bunch of regression and putting some fluffy stuff over the top of it, then maybe those machines make sense. But I think for the vast majority of advertisers, they don't make any sense. You're better off using the Google tool. The asymmetry of data between what Google has and what we as users get is growing by the day. And so they will use that data. Now, the downside is obviously there's a lack of transparency, there's a lack of control, and people much smarter than me have written extensively about this, particularly over the past few weeks, because Google have made a few changes recently that are just starting to get a little bit tiring, really. They're just really not respecting the partner in the advertiser that makes them all these billions of dollars. They're really treating us advertisers as a resource to be maximized. I think this is going to be the least lightning round of all lightning rounds ever, the longest answers ever. But short answer, no. I don't think those tools have their place anymore. I don't think they have had for a while, frankly. And yes, they're all, I think, very outdated now. Don't need them.
Yeah. So it sounds like they might be going out of business. If you're an investor in any of those platforms, maybe rethink that.
maybe get out before the rush. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So thank you so much, Mike. This was fabulous. If our listener wants to learn more from you, where would they go to take your courses, to follow you on social media and read your blog and all that sort of stuff? And also if they want to work with you and have a done for you solution.
So a couple of places. Let's start with the done for you. Thank you for the opportunity to mention that. So websavvy.com.au, because we're down here in Australia. So websavvy.com.au is the done for you agency. So we look after Google ads and Facebook ads for a bunch of brands that you've heard of and many more that you probably haven't. AgencySavvy.com is where you would go if you want to dig into our courses, predominantly around all things Google Analytics, Tag Manager, Data Studio, Google Shopping, Google Display, bit of YouTube, all of that stuff. That's all in AgencySavvy. And if anybody has a question for me, just probably find me on Facebook is the easiest thing. So just facebook.com/Mike Rhodes.
Awesome. And I'm curious, what sort of price range is AgencySavvy? Like, are the courses all priced separately, or is it just an all-you-can-eat kind of
it's
monthly
pretty much
subscription?
All you can eat. Yeah, we're in the middle of changing that at the moment, but I've recorded about 150 odd videos in the last 150 days of lockdown, so been redoing a whole lot of courses. So yes, it's an all-you-can-eat. I think it's $300 a month or a couple of grand a year right now for everything. Or there are, I think, 2 courses that you can buy individually. So sort of a Google Ads Fundamentals. And I'm more than happy to give your listeners free access to Fundamentals if that's...
that's very generous of you.
Give away?
Yeah,
well,
let's do that.
It's a good place to get started. It's about 40 odd videos that will explain not obviously everything from zero to hero, but from zero to pretty damn good. And then if they like my style and they like what's in there, then they can dive into search mastery and go the next step. But yeah, I'll send you some codes or something. We'll figure out a way to make that happen.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Mike. This was
No problem
great.
at all.
And yeah, you're just such a inspiring, not just thought leader, but results leader. And I love that about you.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to have to steal that quote. Get it into script, quick.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, listener. Now take some powerful next actions and have a great rest of your week.